So here we are again. I'm here to answer all your menswear and style questions. Let's get going with Q&A 11. Right, first question. I live in a hot, humid climate, so flannel isn't ideal. Are there other fabrics you'd recommend for unstructured jackets that have the same structural characteristics as flannel, but less heat retaining? Okay, well, the main characteristic of flannel is its milled, air-trapping, fuzzy finish. So the characteristic of flannel, the intrinsic, most famous thing about flannel is that it has that lovely brushed surface, which is why it's warm. So even the lighter weight flannels, I've seen flannels in 8-9 ounces, they always do tend to wear warm. They're going to be generally more like the fresco types and the tropicals, which are kind of have a sharper, cleaner finish, the opposite of flannel. There is a fabric I've been looking at recently with a client who likes the idea of the fresco type fabrics but doesn't want that hard finish, and it's from a mill called Holland and Sherry called Eresco. And unlike most high twist travel cloths, it's got a little bit of cover to it, it's a little bit softer, and some interesting melanges. So from a distance, it kind of gives a flannel vibe. It's at 12 ounces, I think, so it might be still a bit on the heavy side for you, but it's maybe worth checking out with maybe your tailor. It would make a fantastic unlined jacket. The current fashion for men's jacket is for them to be styled short, which I think looks out of proportion. What is an ideal length for a jacket that won't date, and is there a rule of thumb? I would put it out there that the current fashion is no longer short. We had a thing maybe 10 years ago, I'm trying to think, sort of 2013, 14, I know jackets started to get very, very short. I think it's probably a hangover on the high street where the shorter jacket is still popular, and I'll tell you why. Because on the high street, every penny counts, and the menswear buyers, merchandisers, have to make their suits cheaper than last year. So if you're gonna make a longer jacket, that's gonna take more fabric consumption, which means the price will go up, and that's not acceptable in the high street. So you're still seeing this short jacket pervading and the narrow lapel pervading because it's commercial. So anyone who says let's make a longer jacket, wider lapels, well, that's more fabric. So there is a reluctance in the high street to go for these bigger cuts. But from a fashion perspective, no, you're not seeing that short, skinny jacket anymore. So what's an ideal length? I would suggest, avoid extremities. Rule of thumb is covers your seat, and rule of thumb, maybe sort of the middle, sort of near your thumbs, middle of the thumb. That's also a good benchmark. Do you think the size of the man should have a significant impact on the choice of pattern, width, spacing, contrast when it comes to stripes? Could you give a range in centimetres what constitutes very thinly spaced to very widely spaced? Okay, I often read online stuff, I try not to, or style books, and they say shorter men shouldn't do this, taller men shouldn't do that, wider men shouldn't do that. And I always like, yeah, but there's always a great exception to that. It's about style, personality and character. And if you're confident, no matter what size you are, you're gonna look great in your clothes. So that's my first takeaway from these questions. I mean, I'm not the tallest person, so I love wearing stripes. I wear bold stripes, I wear thin stripes. I guess if someone is very, very tall and very wide, as a lot of you, and you're wearing a strong pattern, that is a lot of pattern. So I do warn my customers I've got some customers who are very tall and very broad, like NFL linebackers. And if they're wearing, say, a bold stripe or a bold check, I do warn them, although they've got the size maybe to carry it off, that's also a lot of fabric, you really notice it. So if they're not sure if that's their personal style, they're not like, I maybe err them towards maybe more conservative cloth. So actually smaller people can sometimes carry off the larger fabrics and the bolder patterns better. If you think of perhaps the Duke of Windsor, who was famous for his bolder patterns and bolder styles, he was quite a slight man. I think he was only 5'4", 5'5", and very, very slim. And he carried off the bigger patterns really well, very confidently, but it's about confidence. So yeah, ignore advice, it's about dress your personality would be my idea. And then metric constitutions of thin and widely striped, not really my style, but let's just say a very thinly spaced stripe would be 3mm, and a very widely spaced stripe would be anything over 30mm. Hope that's technical enough for you. What Chelsea boot colour would you recommend for the best versatility? I'm asking for use for casual but refined ensemblers. I love Chelsea boots. I have probably three, I think I've got three, maybe four pairs in my current rotation of shoes, and a dark brown calf leather Chelsea boot is the smartest smart casual shoe in your wardrobe, I believe. It's fantastic with flannels, you can wear it with jeans, corduroys, but it's also smart enough to wear with most suits. It looks fantastic with a grey flannel suit. It looked great, actually, the suit I'm wearing today, this whipcord suit, I'm actually wearing with a pair of brown Chelsea boots. So yeah, the most versatile colour for a pair of Chelsea boots, from jeans through to tailoring, is that sort of espresso shade, dark oak, dark brown calf leather. You can polish it up, it looks really smart, and it looks fantastic. It's slightly battered as well, so there's your answer. How do you keep the area below your trench coat from getting soaked in a heavy or persistent rain? How do you protect your shoes? Okay, the trench coat, if you're wearing it over a suit or you're tailoring and it's heavy rain, especially when it splashes off the pavement, yeah, you will find the bottom of your trousers will get a little bit wet. The way trench coats are cut, they kind of flare out. So they do create a little bit of an umbrella around the bottom. If you've got an umbrella as well, that will help. But really, no, that is going to be a issue if you're outside for a long time. Your bottom of your trousers will get wet. So really, if you're in an urban situation, I would probably avoid being outside for too long. Now, if you're in the countryside, which is a different point of view, and you can't take cover and you're using your trench coat to keep yourself dry, you might want to maybe wear boots or Wellington boots, which will then protect the bottom. That would be much better coverage from rain. Now, how to protect your shoes? Now, good quality shoes can be worn in the rain. You can protect them from the rain and polish them regularly, particularly in the welt. Will make them slightly waterproof. If you're one who needs to be in wet conditions a lot and you want to really protect your shoes, you might want to consider galoshes. Now, galoshes are rubber overshoes which affords you better protection, particularly in snow and heavy rain, and give you better grip. There is a company called Swims that make them in quite nice colours and quite tasteful and quite good looking. So yeah, if you want to protect your shoes for galoshes, look up Swims. Are there any colours for the stripes that you would dismiss immediately? For instance, black with green pinstripes. This is a fabric by an English mill which features a relatively bright lime green on charcoal. That sounds fantastic. Yeah, I love that. I did a video on stripes and styles of stripes recently, which you can find here. And one of the points I put across was that we talk about stripes as being conservative business, and a fine off-white stripe on charcoal grey is a conservative business suit. But you can have some fun with it. I think, yeah, it depends obviously context. So the first question, with any colours I would dismiss immediately, is absolutely not. I love bold stripe suits. They're more flamboyant, they're for going out in. It's for people that enjoy their tailoring and love their clothes. So no, certainly wouldn't dismiss anything in the right context. Possibly not for conservative business. I think that'd be amazing if maybe it's a 3-button suit. You can have a bit of fun, do like an iridescent green and purple lining. Yeah, great. And then you can really pick out the accessories. You could bring out some green in the pocket square. You could bring some lilacs in the shirts. So no, don't dismiss these fabrics. Like I said, it's not conservative business, but if you enjoy your tailoring and you want to be a bit creative, these stripes are fantastic. I have a pair of Pinny Palmer beige corduroy trousers that I'm itching to get out of the wardrobe. Would you have any suggestions on how to style them? Okay, well, I'm not familiar with Pinny Palmer, but I know beige corduroy. Okay, let's say it's a nice autumn day, it's a bit cooler. Wear them with some chunky boots. I think corduroy and chunky boots look good, maybe like an alpine style. Lace-ups in like a nice sort of rugged suede. And what can you put on top? Nice merino knitwear, maybe a little crew neck, and then a lovely sort of top coat with that. So yeah, a really nice, smart look. Maybe a pea coat in sort of tobacco brown. cream sweater, yeah, that's a great way of wearing them. Don't see it so often, but when I was younger, we often used to wear beige corduroy with our navy blazers as a sort of something in between the grey flannel trouser and the beige chino. Also looks quite nice as well. So, but beige is a very neutral colour. Corduroy is very autumnal. It can be very autumnal. So, yeah, let me see some pictures. Put them on Instagram and don't forget to tag me. You guys, or gentlemen in British English, showed a lot of examples of the chalk stripe being broken up, but none for the other types of stripe. Do you reckon that it's the only kind of stripe that can be broken up? No, but as I said, chalk stripe lends itself so much easier to being separates. Light grey flannel chalk stripes as trousers, worn as an odd jacket, works better than hard woofted dark navy pinstripes. So I would never say hard and fast, you can't break them up, but the flannel chalk stripe is your go-to suiting if you want to break something up. You're one of the few I've heard mention the length of the vent. What an eye for detail, thank you. What should one consider for the vent's length? Okay, well, when you're having a suit made to measure or bespoke, you won't generally be asked about vent length, but you might want to discuss it, you may want to bring it up. Any tailor will create a vent length which suits your body, your size, your height, your width, and obviously the style of the jacket. When I order my own suits, or when I work with brands creating styles, or when I used to be a menswear designer, I would always stipulate the length and pay attention to it. From a style point of view, if I'm making a suit with a strong shoulder and a really wide peak lapel, I would like a long side vent, you know, sometimes even 11 or 12 inches, really quite dramatic. I like that combination. Longer vents obviously look better on longer jackets. On the shorter styles, sometimes it's fun to play around with that quite short side vent. You know, I've even done suits with 6-inch side vents, which looks fantastic in that sort of early 60s pre-modern, sort of modernist style, narrow lapels and shorter side vents. So yeah, it shouldn't be overlooked, and it's something to consider. And if you're having a made-to-measure suit and you're trying on examples, you know, have a discussion about, you know, side vent, centre vent, no vent. All three are valid options. And if you feel that the vent isn't as long or short as you'd like it, discuss it with the fitter and see if it can be changed. But it is an important detail. Backs of suits are often neglected in design because you will just look at the front. What do you think about using tartan for a pocket square? I think that's fabulous. I really like that idea. It reminds me, in fact, years ago, and I was building my wardrobe, I actually was given, like for Christmas, you know, get those 3 packs of cotton handkerchiefs, and one was actually a tartan. I actually wore it as a pocket square, and I enjoyed wearing it for a pocket square for many years. So when this video is finished, I'm going to speak to the design team at Rampley & Co and say, why don't we do tartan? I love pinstripe suits. It's an unapologetic power look, mandating attention to the person. Setting aside the idea of breaking a worsted suit up, what fabrics and stripes would you recommend for a sport coat? If you wanted an out-and-out striped sports coat, I would say you want to go for a regatta stripe, a Henley stripe blazer. It's quite an English summer dandy look, quite a sporty look. There's a book called Roaring Blazers, so if you're looking for inspiration, check that out. A striped sports jacket is generally it's usually in like a Venetian wool, sometimes wool and cotton, and it's quite a summer sporty look. 2 questions about Prince of Wales check. 1, must it be light grey? 2, could it be double breasted? Well, certainly it doesn't have to be light grey. Prince of Wales check in a lighter grey looks fantastic. It'll be a combination of sort of mid grey and off-white, potentially with a little bit of an overcheck like a baby blue or a light red. That's a lovely colour. And in fact, if you're looking for a lighter grey suit for your wardrobe, I would suggest going for maybe like a flannel, a texture, or a fine check. You can actually get some very fine checks with the Prince of Wales. You can only actually see from quite close up, and from a distance, so like a shark skin or even like a houndstooth. So no, it looks great in light grey, but it doesn't have to be. Prince of Wales check looks wonderful in all sorts of colours. It looks great in dark blue. It looks wonderful in tobacco browns. In fact, I think technically the first Prince of Wales check, the Glen Urquhart check, was actually brown and blue. And could it be double-breasted? Absolutely, yeah. No, a double-breasted light grey Prince of Wales check is a wonderful suit. So yeah, if you're looking for a looking to build your wardrobe and you've got your classics covered, you've got your navies and the charcoals and your Air Force Blue, and looking to go for your first double-breasted, a light grey Prince of Wales check, why not? Yeah, a little bit more festive, something maybe to wear to a wedding or to the races. So no, it certainly can be double-breasted. In fact, I'd encourage it. For suiting, do you prefer flannel as a single-breasted or double-breasted? Okay, well, before I answer this question, I'll do a quick pick on the question and say suiting. Suiting refers to the fabric you make a suit for. It's not a collective noun for suits. So the question is, for suits, do you prefer single or double-breasted? Sorry, I had to get that out there. I love both. I love flannel suits. I did a recent video on flannel, which you can find here, where I talk about it's a great vehicle as a sports jacket, as a suit, as a single-breasted, as a double-breasted. I like both. If I had to choose, and I don't want to choose, but if I had to choose between single-breasted and double-breasted, I would make a really good compromise. So I could only have one flannel sit in my wardrobe, let's say. I would go for single-breasted with a double-breasted peak lapel and a double-breasted waistcoat. So you kind of get the ease of a single-breasted with the swag of a double-breasted, and that looks fantastic in flannel. So that would be if I had to pick only one, that would be my go-to. But no, they look great in both. So no, get both. What is the name of those stripe styles that look shiny and have thicker stripes in the same colour as the suits but in a different shade? The best example I can think of is Michael Corleone's double-breasted grey three-piece in The Godfather. Okay, well, I'm sad to admit that suit, I don't recall that suit. I'm sure we'll find it on B-roll to show you. I will look it up and maybe as a style dive onto The Godfather for a future video. What I'm thinking of is a shadow stripe. Don't really see them as much as you used to, but when I first got into the trade in the 90s and I was doing made-to-measure suits, you would get a cloth that would be usually black, navy, sometimes charcoal, and it would just be woven in such a way it would reflect light differently. So it would have a slight indication of that, of a self-stripe. It's also very popular in shirts, where you used to get satin striped shirts, so it'd be like a plain white. But rather than just being plain white, there'd be a self-stripe running through it, a little bit shiny. Some people found it a little bit flash. So that's probably what I'm thinking of. Herringbone as well, when it's a self colour or a melange colour, they can weave it in such a way sometimes where it's got a bit of a shine to it, and where the chevrons go in different directions, it creates a bit of a shadow stripe or a self stripe. So that's probably what we're looking for. It's either going to be herringbone or shadow stripe. And I'll be watching The Godfather this weekend. While the classic gabardine trench coat looks great and works well enough in the light rain, it's unfortunately wholly inadequate in heavy rain. Do you have any suggestions for replacing this stylish standard bearer of men's rainwear? Okay, well, the classic gabardine trench coat uses late 19th century technology when the British mills were being very innovative, and we were finding, I'm British, I'm taking joint credit, for making water resistant fabrics. During World War I in the trenches, under horrific conditions, the officers were buying trench coats, which were huge rainproof coats to wear over their woolen greatcoats to keep the rain off. However, in the modern world, we're fussy and that isn't good enough for a modern light shower in London. It was okay for Flanders, but not for Bond Street. So you want something better. In the 21st century, there's been some great innovations on fabrics. The two which spring to mind are Earth, Wind & Fire by VBC and Storm System by Loro Piana, both premium Italian mills. And actually there is a video out here where I am talking about Storm System in the Richard Gelding shop. Should you remove your jacket at an event such as a wedding, or take it off at some point if you're warm? If you've taken it off, should it stay off? My advice for this would be, for a wedding or any formal event, and I'm wearing a suit or a morning coat or a dinner jacket, I certainly wouldn't take it off for the speeches or for the meal. I would keep it on. I have been to weddings where people have sat down for the meal in the summer and taken their jackets off and put it on the back of their chair, and that's not really what you should do. In fact, at my own wedding, we noticed some guests doing that. So to embarrass them, we got the MC to make an announcement to say that gentlemen may remove their jackets, just to make a point. So no, don't remove your jacket unless you've been specifically instructed to do so, or if you notice the top table. So if the groom and the best man and the father of the bride have removed their jackets, I would say then you can follow suit. But no, keep your jacket on. At black tie events, please keep your jacket on. It's called a dinner jacket. You can eat your dinner in it. You don't need to take it off to move your arms. So no, I would avoid taking your jacket off unless you've been instructed to, or the wedding party have also done it. Now, second part of this question, if you've taken your jacket off, should it stay off? I don't think that's an etiquette question. No, you can put it back on. If, for example, it was a very warm day at a wedding and the top table say, no, let's take our jackets off for comfort while we're having the meal, and then you're going to another part of the venue, maybe going to the reception or another part of the building, you wouldn't have to then carry your jacket. It'd be perfectly acceptable to put your jacket on and off again as it goes. No, so that's just personal preference. Taking your jacket off, if you want to put it back on again because you're more comfortable wearing it. I find it more comfortable to not carry things. Yeah, you can. There's no etiquette in that at all. But the first one is a big etiquette, which I'm seeing. Yeah, we need to bring that back. You talk about exterior features, but what about features inside the suit, like passport pockets, pen pockets, and other features? Have there been any innovations to carry a cell phone without it showing? Okay, this is an area of tailoring which has been very much driven by ready to wear and made to measure. When I first got into the trade, bespoke tailors would put one chest pocket inside the coat, usually on your right side, and that was it. Because on a bespoke suit, when you're making it by hand, every pocket detail is more work. And also, they don't want you to fill it up with stuff. When you're making a suit in a workshop, adding more pockets is simple. So customers became accustomed to having two breast pockets, a separate pen pocket, and then on the inside left side, they call it inside ticket pocket, which I really like because I use it for business cards when I used to carry a business card. But I find it as a useful pocket. You can have on made-to-measure suits 2 ticket pockets. So when I used to have 2 inside ticket pockets, one for my own business card, one for collecting business cards when I was at trade shows. Yeah, so there are lots of pockets. On tweed jackets, you sometimes do a poacher's pocket, which is a larger inside left-hand side pocket. On overcoats, I love a poacher's pocket because you can use it for newspapers. A passport pocket, well, I think a passport pocket would be a British one is a standard sort of wallet size, so it kind of fit into any sort of chest pocket. But back in the day, we used to call a checkbook pocket, which makes it sound really old because you might need to Google what a checkbook is. But a checkbook was a form of payment in a book sort of that long, and they used to stick out of your pocket. So what we used to do is make our pockets deeper on the upside, so you could actually fit it in completely. You could also use it for boarding passes. Again, you might need to Google what a boarding pass is. So yeah, there are many innovations. Now, cell phones, well, having the right type of pocket, making sure it doesn't show, it's down to fit. So yeah, having a good sized pocket and a suit which is not too tight, yeah, helps. If you're going for bespoke, you can really upset the tailor and say, I want to carry my heavy phone with me, and they'll just look at you like you're destroying my suit. But they can consider that when they're making a suit for you. Or when you're buying a suit off the peg, be aware you don't leave anything behind, because I've seen this happen a lot. But if you're trying a suit and you really need to carry different things around with you, put those things in the suit before it's fitted. So yeah, that's my answer. Advice please about breaking up an Air Force Blue pinstripe suit. Well, that sounds lovely. I love Air Force Blue. I think it's a colour that's much ignored in menswear. And when you're building your wardrobe, after you've got your charcoal and the navy, consider it as a third colour. It's so elegant, it's so sophisticated, particularly in those slightly muted shades. Looks wonderful with brown suede shoes. As far as breaking it up, in my mind, just for context, when I'm thinking of a Air Force Blue pinstripe suit, I'm thinking of a really beautiful flannel with pleated trousers and a single-breasted peak lapel. Just what comes to my mind. I would wear the trousers with brown suede shoes, like a tobacco loafer, maybe a semi-brogue, and then like a really beautiful, chunky cream table knit cashmere sweater. That's a lovely look, with the off-white in the stripe, just really, really pulling out the cream sweater. That's a lovely look of wearing striped trousers. Then the jacket, which is going to be single-breasted peak lapel, I would wear that with a pair of dove grey full cut flannel trousers. Again, picking out that sort of off-white stripe in it. There's a real sort of like 1930s dressed down look, maybe with like a chambray shirt, knitted tie, and again some suede loafers. So yeah, well done on getting Air Force Blue pinstripe suit. It looks wonderful. And if you're not getting enough wear out of it, I hope that gives you some inspiration. All my silk pocket squares here in the USA are 13-inch squared. The ones you're showing look much larger, like a scarf. Just wondering why. Maybe mine are cheap. Only you can tell me if they're cheap or not, because you paid for them, I hope. Yeah, the Rampley & Co pocket square is usually around 16 inches, so it's a little bit bigger. It is richer. It gives you more of a richer fold. It doesn't get lost in the pocket. And it gives you the opportunity to fold it in different ways. So I'd recommend looking for pocket squares with a size of around 16 inches, just to get better quality. I have a question about terminology. I see a plain fold pocket square being referred to as presidential. Is this term an Americanism? I always heard this style referred to as Duke of Edinburgh, but maybe that's just my father or my tailor's personal term. Is that term used commonly in Britain? Okay, well the first part about presidential, and this is when you get usually like a white cotton or white linen, you fold it very simply and you get that squared off look. And yeah, I have read about, I think in the American books, maybe the Alan Flusser books, or somebody online in the American guides, have referred to it as presidential. It's not really a term we use in the UK, we just refer to it as a plain fold. Duke of Edinburgh, no. If someone spoke to me about Duke of Edinburgh, I wouldn't immediately associate that with a particular type of pocket square. And I presume when you say Duke of Edinburgh, you're not referring to the current Duke of Edinburgh, you're referring to Prince Philip, the previous Duke of Edinburgh, who I believe often wore a pocket square in that style. Very stylish gentleman. But no, it's not an expression I've heard in the UK. Chris, can you do a video talking about the British style of bold striped shirts outside the classic white and light blue colour palette? Well, that's a great idea for a video. Obviously, this is short answers, so I can't do an expansive reply. But no, it's something we'd love to talk about. Possibly work with a shirt maker, bring some patterns in and talk about styling, etc. But I would say as a short answer, and I was talking about this with a customer the other day, Jermyn Street, which is the street in London which is famous for shirt makers, is famous for bold striped shirts, which are bolder and brasher than perhaps French or Italian shirts. And the reason we often used to say this is that to an Englishman, he would often wear his club tie, which is quite conservative. His City London tie would be conservative, his suit would be charcoal or navy, and he'd be wearing a three-piece suit and often a white starched collar. So your shirt was just a little bit of a flash of personality and individuality in an otherwise sombre way of dressing. Black shoes, for example. So having a little bit of a bolder striped shirt was very London. And the gentleman would remove his coat. So yes, shirts were seen as underwear, and to have a little bit of a bolder striped shirt underneath it was a bit of fun. Sadly, when you go to Jermyn Street now, because of the modernisation of the global fashions, you're seeing less of the old-fashioned bold Jermyn Street shirts. Because I really love them. I really used to enjoy wearing them. I've still got a few, but I actually like them when they get a bit battered and beaten up and just wear them at the weekend with jeans. It's a really cool look of that old Jermyn Street shirt, slightly frayed collar, and those, what we call like pyjama stripes. So yeah, people like Harvey and Hudson, Tumbanasa, all used to do these, New and Ling would always do these really bold striped shirts, which sadly not seeing again. So I hope it's ripe for revival. Even the shirt mills, when they're going for books now, you don't see those really old-fashioned London stripes. I'm getting quite nostalgic, sorry. But no, hopefully do a longer form video on this, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it. I find that every pair of flannel trousers tears or brutally peels at the crotch. I'm fairly slim and don't have big legs, but 3 pairs of expensive trousers have already had the same issue. I've worked with both lightweight and heavyweight English and Italian cloths. Okay, well, first of all, well done on your perseverance. You're having some bad issues with your trousers and you're committed to flannel, so obviously you definitely want a pair. If you have pilling, now pilling is when the inside of the legs rubs together and the fabric wears and it starts to bobble. With flannel cloth, because it has a surface to it, it can be more prone to that rather than a hard finished worsted. If you have big legs or if you cycle in your trousers, that can prematurely do it. If you've got particularly quite athletic, you can be quite slim in the waist but have quite athletic thighs. Sports people, for example, will actually cause that problem. Things to help it would be fuller cuts, so pleated trousers that throw extra cloth towards the thigh area will generally wear better than close-fitting flat front. Not always the case. Fit is important. If the trousers fit you well and fit you all around the waist well, and around the seat well and the thigh well, they're going to have less friction. Picking cloth, well, heavyweight cloth will wear better than lightweight cloth. English and Italian makes no difference to me. They both produce both types of fabric. You might be better off going with a worsted flannel, a heavier worsted flannel rather than a woolen flannel. It's more resilient. But without actually seeing you and seeing the trousers and seeing how you're built, I would probably say at this stage, avoid flannel. I've never seen, I'm especially talking about trousers tearing and brutally pilling. You've obviously got an issue there, so probably avoid flannel for your odd trousers. I would suggest going for maybe tropical woofteds, plain weaves, gabardines, whipcords, or hard finished trouserings that make great sports trousers, and possibly avoid flannel. I have a blue chambray shirt but looking to expand my collection. Are there any other colours available? What a fantastic question. Viewers of this channel and subscribers to this channel will know I like a chambray shirt. In fact, today I'm wearing a blue end on ends, but I'm often ending up in the chambray. I've probably got 7 in my collection now, and although they're all in the blue scale, they are different weights, different styles of collar, but also like your jeans, they're in different fading. So although you don't often see colours, you do get different washes. And I always say to my customers, always err on the darker side when buying a shirt. Unless you absolutely love it, if you see one and it's a good price and it's beautifully washed out, buy it. I always urge my customers to go on the slightly darker side and wash it out yourself so it becomes your shirt. But as far as other colours, I'm actually I'm doing product development with a brand at the moment, and we're looking to do like a raw denim chambray style shirt from an Italian mill. And it's actually, they call it like an ink navy, but it's actually quite grey black. And that looks almost like more of a workwear feel to it. So you might be able to find that from certain mills. But no, you don't often see it in the same way you don't really see coloured jeans like you used to. No, maybe after this video, I'm gonna get in touch with the cloth mill and see we should launch. No, I don't know. Would it look good in other colours? I guess it's like saying blue jeans. You know, blue jeans are doing okay as a product. But you don't really, what's the second colour? You do a bit of black and you see white, but you don't really see other colours in denim. So, okay, so this is a long answer to a short question. I would say if you're looking to expand your blue chambray, you need at least 5 versions of blue before you need a second colour, and that's what you need. And if you want other colours, use other fabrics. Use batiste, use Oxford, use twill, use herringbone, use linen, use voile. So no, chambray is blue. There were some great questions there. I hope you enjoyed my answers. Put your comments below and don't forget to hit that subscribe button.